Hey everyone, Justin with AmericanTrucks.com here, and today we're going to be breaking down and installing the Red Rock Low Profile Hard Tri-Fold Bed Cover, available for all 2004 to 2014 F-150s, equipped with either a 5.5 foot or 6.5 foot bed. Now, you guys should be checking out the Red Rock for your F-150 if you're looking for, I would say, one of the most affordable hard tri-folding options that will boast that aluminum panel construction to ultimately help keep your bed cargo both dry and safe at all times. Now, the big feature with this and essentially every bed cover in the category is to add a certain level of protection from both the elements and possible thieves. And I will say that the addition of the aluminum panel design here will certainly bolster or increase your protection over, say, a standard soft cover that can easily be defeated with a knife. Now, the Red Rock option here again is going to feature that extremely popular tri-fold design. Definitely the most popular here at AT, which does make accessing your bed a very easy task. Now, also worth mentioning, guys, is the fact that the Red Rock will be able to fold up and out of the way completely if you ever need to access your entire bed at a moment's notice. And that's not something that's always possible with your other more budget-friendly tri-folds on the site. Finally, guys, the Red Rock does feature that flush mount design. I really like that because ultimately it does make for a very sleek and low profile appearance when everything's installed. Now, diving a little bit deeper into the construction, let's talk panels first. And you're gonna find that lightweight yet very durable aluminum material around a foam core. And that's a design that's pretty common in the tri-fold market, at least here on the site. Now, each panel does feature that light texture, I would say. Site calls it a matte black powder coat. To my eyes, it's more of a satin black powder coat, but regardless, just know it's not gloss. And just that powder coat's in place for one thing, to keep the cover looking good, help prevent any scratches, fading, chipping, anything like that over the years. Now, the cover does ride on the aircraft grade aluminum rails that are, of course, included with the kit. Those rails clamp onto your factory bed rails, and at that point, the cover itself is going to ride on those rails. That's gonna make for that easy operation, but an even easier install, as we'll show you guys here in a little bit. Obviously, you're looking at things like the included nylon straps and buckles, help keep the cover in place if you only have it folded partially out of the way. And there are also some legs or stands included with the kit as well. That's gonna help keep the cover up and against that rear window and be able to drive basically with the cover folded all the way up and out of the way. Finally, guys, there are weather seals on all four sides. This is probably my only nitpick with this cover, is that the cover or the actual seals themselves could be a little bit thicker for me. When you get into some of the more expensive tri-fold options, you see things like really thick seals, really bolstered well around all four sides. This is a little bit thin in spots. And again, you have to keep the price point in mind here, guys. This is a budget-friendly option, one of the most affordable of its kind. So it is kind of a give and take in that regard. But ultimately, check out the reviews. You'll hear from real owners who have had this installed. They'll give you their feedback. And for the most part, guys, very positive here with this budget-friendly option. Now, formally getting into pricing here in the Red Rock, again, because it is offered in a couple of different sizes, 5.5 and 6.5 foot bed sizing, obviously your price is going to swing a bit depending on your size. Now, getting into pricing a little bit here with the Red Rock, and because the cover is offered in both 5.5 foot and 6.5 foot sizing, expect your price to swing ever so slightly depending on your size. Now, your smaller 5.5 foot option is gonna live right around $700, give or take. The slightly larger 6.5 foot option is gonna live right around $900. But ultimately, again, this does make this one of the most affordable aluminum options currently in the category by a pretty good margin. But getting into the install, and this is gonna be a very straightforward bolt-on job, guys. Because of that, the site's gonna correctly call this pretty solid 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, maybe an hour or so to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better heads up of how it's all gonna go down, feel free to check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet and a 5mm Allen head bit. First thing we need to do is install our side rails. There's one for each side, and they are side specific, so you need to make sure that this clamp right here is towards the end, and there's also a piece right here That goes on the inside of the bed rail. So we're just going to set this up here right now, like so. And you'll see that there's 3 clamps already pre-installed. We're going to install the other half of them. That's what it looks like, along with the bolts that are included. You will need a 5mm Allen head wrench to install it. And to do this, we're just going to put this pad right here up inside the bed rail and inside the other clamp, like so. Now the other half of this clamp is like a C-clamp, and it's got ribs on one end. That's the end that goes up inside towards the top of the bed rail. It also, the bottom half, is going to sit on the top of this other rail that's already pre-installed. So we'll just slip that up in there like so, and then we'll take one of the supplied bolts and get it started into the back side of this clamp. And once you've got one of those done, you can do the same thing for both sides and the other 2 clamps on this side. So just like the first clamp, this one's going to go in with the ribs towards the top. And then we'll insert the supplied bolt. Now don't worry about tightening them up at this point, because we are going to have to adjust it to make sure that both sides fit properly. So at this point, we just want to make sure that it's not going to fall off. Now we'll go ahead and do the back as well. Slide that up. Once we've got all of our clamps installed, you go ahead and install these adjuster knobs on the bottom of the clamps. And again, we're not going to tighten these up. We're just getting them ready to go. And now you can repeat that whole process for the other side. Now we're ready to install our drain hose. And there's a nozzle right at the end of this rail here on both sides. Now they give you enough hose to run this drain hose down here to the bottom. There's a plug that you can remove, and there's one on each side. But because we've got the sprayed in bed liner on our truck, we're not going to do that. We're just going to run our hose through this hole at the top of the bed rail here. Now to do this, what you would want to do is just go ahead and cut the hose in half. That way you've got one for each side. We're not going to do that this time, but you're just going to insert this hose over the top of this nozzle and then run it down into this hole here. Now you may also want to consider putting a little soapy water on the end of this just to make it easier to slip on. But there is no clamp. You just have to work it in. And then once you've got it securely in there, go ahead and run your hose. Like I said, we're going to run it through this hole right here. And that way the water can drain out from the rail itself. Now, like I said, you cut that hose in half, you've got enough to do both sides. Now we're ready to go ahead and lay our tonneau cover itself onto the rails that we just installed. Now you are going to need a buddy for this because it is quite heavy and bulky. So one thing you need to remember is that this short piece here with the hinge goes towards the front of the truck. So let's go ahead and get this lifted on. All right, now that we've got our tonneau cover set in place, we can go ahead and tighten up all of our clamps that hold the side rails on. So we're going to start from the front, and we're going to do all the side ones first, and then we'll tighten the knobs at the bottom. And you can repeat that process for the other side as well. Now to lock the front edge of the tonneau cover down, right underneath the edge of this hinge here, there's a piece of rubber and a long rod. What you want to do is you want to slide that rod towards the outside of the truck and let this rod hang down. Once you got that done, then you're going to use these small clamps here. And there's a sliding plate right here that this hook is going to go into. This is going to slide up on this rod here. We'll hook it into this piece of steel here, and then we'll secure it with this locking knob. All right, so we're going to slide this onto our rod here and just put our locking knob on just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall out. And we slide that over towards the edge of the truck, line it up with our steel plate here. There is a slot in there for that hook to go into. Once you've got that done, just go ahead and thread the locking knob all the way up. Once you've got that locked into place, you can do the same thing on the other side. Now that we've got our front of a tonneau cover completely secured, we can go ahead and install our prop rod. To do that, you've got a spring clip on one end and a solid rubber bumper on the other end. So the spring clip goes into this little arm at the top of your cover here. Just pop that on like so. And then you can adjust the angle of your support rod. And there's a lock here. You just slide that back, push the rod in, and secure it in place. Once you're at the angle that you want to support this at, go ahead and tighten down this knob here, and that will lock it in place. And do the same thing for the other side. And that wraps up our review and install of the Red Rock low profile hard trifold tonneau cover for the 04 to 14 F-150 style side with the 5.5 or 6.5 foot bed. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.